He is a bounty hunter who carries a black bag wherever he goes, but he has a habit. Before taking action each time, he always asks the same question: have you ever seen someone with an eye pattern carved on their dagger? If he doesn't get the answer he wants, he will not hesitate to swing the axe in his hand, then put the other person's head into the bag. It turns out that when Bill was a child, he witnessed his mother being brutally killed. The murderer not only left 3 shocking bloodstains on his mother's back, but also held a hunting knife with an eye pattern carved on it. When he grew up, Bill became a bounty hunter and thus embarked on his road of revenge. In this western land, there are countless outlaws, but as less and less gold is mined, the days in the small town are getting worse and worse. There are no good people or bad people here, only villains and enemies. McCoy in the small town not only fails to punish evil and promote good, but also colludes with bandits. He uses his identity as a sheriff to seek benefits for himself, and even monopolizes all the water sources in the town, then sells them at a high price to the owner of the bathhouse. But over time, the people became dissatisfied. They hoped that McCoy would do something for the town instead of idling around and enjoying himself all day long. Under pressure, McCoy had to take 2 assistants out to put on a show, but they didn't really want to suppress the bandits. Instead, they wanted to take advantage of the chaos to extort a toll from the bandits. But this time, he might be disappointed, because there were no bandits here, only a bounty hunter holding a black bag. Bill threw the bag on the ground and signaled McCoy to look inside. Unfortunately, he was too late. The bandit's head had already been cut off by Bill and put into the bag. McCoy was a little angry when he saw this, because Bill had blocked his money-making path and broken the rules. Bill originally planned to exchange the bandit's head for a reward with him, but unexpectedly, McCoy not only refused to give money, but also drove Bill out of the town. But how could Bill leave easily? Because he hadn't found the person with the eye pattern carved on the dagger yet. So he rode his horse back to the town again, not taking McCoy seriously at all. Then Bill came to a tavern in the town. He put the bag on the seat and took out some money, preparing to buy some drinks from the boss. Blood kept seeping out of the black bag, which scared the others. One person quickly ran to tell McCoy about this. This really made McCoy angry. He rushed into the tavern without saying a word, and told Bill in a simple and rough way who the boss here was. Since Bill had shaken his authority, it made McCoy very unhappy. He not only confiscated Bill's pistol, but also issued a sky-high fine to him. Bill didn't argue with him. After all, McCoy was the boss here, so he obediently paid the fine. But McCoy seemed still unsatisfied. He not only insulted Bill in front of everyone, but also poured all the water in his kettle on the ground, and warned the boss not to sell a drop of water to him again. Although he drove Bill away using his authority, he didn't expect to be taught a lesson by Bill, because as soon as McCoy went out, he found that his horse was missing. McCoy knew very well that this must be Bill's doing. He knew Bill must not have gone far, so he ordered the police officer to chase after him quickly, no matter what. They had to bring Bill back. The police officer rode his horse as fast as he could and soon caught up, but Bill didn't take him seriously. He then took out an axe. This scared the police officer so much that he turned around and ran away without saying a word. After returning to the police station, he told McCoy what had happened, and even lied that he had lost track of Bill. McCoy first cursed him severely, then took his weapon and prepared to go catch Bill himself. On the other side, Bill met a shepherd on the road, so he planned to ask for some water to drink. The shepherd warmly took Bill home, not only filled his kettle with water, but also poured a glass of wine for him to taste. Bill had no precautions. He picked up the glass and drank it all in one go. But after a while, he felt dizzy and realized that the wine had been drugged. But it was too late. When he woke up, he found himself chained to the room, lying on a floor covered with blood and maggots. At this time, the shepherd was outside swinging a machete, chopping bones. After a while, he walked into the room with a piece of meat. It turned out that he had just killed Bill's horse. But fortunately, he didn't kill Bill along with the horse, because he had a big use for keeping Bill. The shepherd gave Bill a piece of meat to replenish his strength and said he would keep Bill locked up for a few more days. Bill lay on the ground, cursing angrily. At this time, on the other side, McCoy and his assistant were searching for traces of Bill, but unexpectedly, they encountered an emergency on the way. Several bodies lying on the ground and a cash transport truck from the federal government. It was obvious that a fierce battle had just taken place here, but when McCoy was checking the bodies on the ground, there was a sudden movement from inside the carriage. It turned out that there was still a fish that had slipped through the net in the carriage. McCoy acted quickly and fired a few more shots, but what they didn't expect was that there was a whole box of money in the carriage. The two immediately found a place to hide the money, but when McCoy took off his clothes, the same scars as those on Bill's mother's body appeared on his back. And what exactly is his relationship with the murderer? When Bill woke up, he found himself chained to the room, lying on a floor covered with blood and maggots. He got up and crawled towards a bucket nearby. Parched with thirst, he planned to drink some water, but unexpectedly, what was in it was not water at all, but a whole bucket of blood. When Bill looked up, he was frightened by the scene in front of him. It turned out that the farmer was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He specialized in killing for pleasure and liked to hang people upside down on the beam, letting the blood all over their bodies flow into the bucket through their eyes, then drinking it. At this time, Bill had no way out. He would die here from excessive blood loss before long. On the other side, McCoy was still searching for traces of Bill, wanting to catch this horse thief and teach him a lesson. The two followed the footprints all the way to the farmer's house. After entering, McCoy began to look around. However, the farmer was very calm, not panicking at all. Then he poured 2 glasses of wine for them to taste, but McCoy didn't seem to like the strange taste. He only smelled it and didn't drink it, then asked the farmer if anyone else had been here, but the farmer shook his head. After getting no useful information, McCoy had to leave with his assistant, but he felt something was wrong as soon as he went out. His strong sixth sense told him that there must be something wrong here. When he came to the stable, he indeed found Bill's personal belongings here. It was obvious that the farmer had lied to him, but McCoy didn't act in a hurry because he was waiting for the right opportunity. The farmer sat outside the gate holding a shotgun, but unknowingly fell asleep. Unexpectedly, at this time, McCoy quietly came to his side. The farmer, who hadn't recovered yet, was shot dead by McCoy. Then he found Bill, who was hanging upside down on the beam. He not only mocked him, but also took the opportunity to teach this horse thief a lesson. After that, he tied Bill with a rope, preparing to take him back to torture slowly. But McCoy never expected that he had already gotten into big trouble, because a group of fierce bandits were heading towards his town, just to retrieve the box of money they had lost. The man in front of him was buried in the yellow sand. Even before he died, he begged the bandits bitterly, but in this western land with no rules, you either kill or be killed. Only those who are ruthless are qualified to survive here. After the bandits dug the second pit, it was the Indian's turn next, but he didn't look panicked at all, because he had already broken his thumb, broken free from the handcuffs, and was ready to fight. In just 5 seconds, he knocked down the bandits, then strode towards the carriage, but he wasn't preparing to escape. He was going to get back his own weapon, because this gun was really powerful. It could not only merge with the body, but also draw blood to accumulate energy when exerting force. With this weapon, even fighting 10 enemies at once would be no problem. After dealing with the bandits, he left the man buried in the soil, then rode his horse and disappeared into the desert. Immediately after, he rode to a private manor, preparing to receive the next bounty mission. Led by the housekeeper, he successfully entered the villa and met his employer here. The boss welcomed him with the highest etiquette in the Jianghu, but getting down to business, it was time to talk about serious matters. It turned out that a few days ago, he had sent his men out to rob a cash transport truck, but when his men were returning with the loot, they were attacked on the way. Not only did they lose several capable men, but the 200,000 in cash also fell into the hands of McCoy from the town. The boss's goal was very simple: to find McCoy and take back the money that belonged to him. In addition, there was one more important thing: he wanted to kill McCoy. At this time, on the other side, McCoy and his men encountered trouble, because on his way leading Bill back to the town, he found that the suspension bridge leading to the town had been broken in half. The only way ahead was to take a detour through the canyon. Helplessly, they had to abandon their horses and walk on foot. On the other side, the 3 men sent by the boss were already ready. They found a local merchant to lead the way, and together they went to the town where McCoy was, to retrieve the 200,000 in cash. But unexpectedly, they encountered patrolling mounted police on the way. The merchant told everyone not to panic, and that he would handle this properly. It turned out that these 2 mounted police were investigating the robbery of the cash transport truck, so they stepped forward to ask if the men knew anything about it. The merchant planned to perfunctory them and then continue on their way, but the Indian beside him seemed to have lost his patience. He drew his knife and started fighting without saying a word. This scared the merchant a lot. Obviously, he didn't want to get into too much trouble, but at this point, he had no choice. Under Blaine's threat, he had to continue on the road. Soon they arrived at the town and broke into the police station, but they didn't see McCoy here. Blaine directly stated his purpose and asked him to tell where McCoy was, but the police officer looked fearless. He not only didn't take them seriously, but also threatened to teach them a lesson if they didn't get out of the police station. Blaine didn't even give him a chance to count down and shot him dead directly. The others were completely scared when they saw this and told them the approximate direction of McCoy. But at this moment, another police officer took the opportunity to jump out of the window. After slaughtering everyone in the police station, Blaine chased after the escaping officer without hesitation, for they had a rule: never leave a living witness. The young officer ran for his life, only to be blocked by the other men. In a panic, he ducked into a carriage, trying to escape through the other door, but the door wouldn't budge. Finally, he gave up struggling and faced death head-on. Meanwhile, McCoy and the others were still on their way back to town. With the only suspension bridge to town severed, their only path was to trek through a pitch-black mine. But after lingering in the oxygen-deprived darkness, Bill grew dizzy and even hallucinated. However, what he saw next jolted him awake. McCoy bore the same 3 scars as his mother. Bill felt a surge of hope, for the one who left those scars must be the man who killed his mother. Once they emerged from the mine, Bill pointed his gun at McCoy without hesitation, demanding to know who had carved the scars on his back. McCoy tried to resist, but Bill quickly overpowered him, pinning him to the ground. Reluctantly, McCoy uttered a name: Bronson. Having gotten the answer he sought, Bill let go. Instead of harming McCoy, he asked how he'd gotten those scars. Bill recounted the entire scene of his mother's murder, mentioning the hunting knife with the eye pattern he'd seen in the killer's hand. McCoy froze. He slowed his steps, then began reloading his gun. Yes, he planned to shoot Bill in the back, for he'd been there when Bill's mother was killed. The killer was his own brother, Bronson. They'd long since parted ways, and those 3 scars on his back, Bronson had left them, too. Though they shared a common enemy, McCoy decided to eliminate Bill to avoid future trouble. A bandit pulled out a dagger and handed it to his underling, ordering him to carve flesh from their dead comrade to fill their stomachs. The bandits were no strangers to murder and plunder, but even McCoy hesitated at this. Yet their leader insisted, it's the only way to survive. He's already dead, better to eat than let him rot. They'd been stranded in the desert for 5 days. To lead the remaining men to safety, McCoy had no choice but to comply. Perhaps this was their only shot of living. It all began days earlier. They'd ransacked a monastery and found a 70-kilogram gold cross, but smuggling it out proved far from easy. They were being hunted by over 20 cavalrymen. In a rush, they'd fled into this desolate desert, but one of their men did something foolish. Parched with hunger, he tried to kill their horse for food. Spooked, the horse bolted, dragging the carriage away, though luckily, the cross fell off. Helpless, they watched the carriage vanish, taking their only means of transport with it. Stranded without the carriage, they'd starve to death. Furious at the bungling man, McCoy lashed out at him. Now they were trapped, a barren desert ahead, cavalry at their heels. Trekking out on foot was nearly impossible, especially with a 70-kilogram cross, but they had no other choice. The man who tried to kill the horse was ordered to carry the cross as penance. They stumbled on, starving, for days. Eventually, they found the carriage, but the horse was already a skeleton. That night, they dismantled the carriage for firewood, resting briefly before pressing on. Dawn came, but their leader, Bronson, couldn't sleep. He stared fixedly at the sleeping man beside him, growing angrier by the minute. Finally, he choked the man to death. The next morning, the others assumed the man had starved. To survive, they ate. But soon, another comrade collapsed. Too weak to go on, he'd been hiding a piece of rotting meat, eating it on the sly, and now he was vomiting uncontrollably. Unable to move, the leader wanted to leave him behind, but McCoy refused to abandon a brother. The leader nodded, saying he'd handle it. What he did next horrified McCoy. He killed the dying man. Enraged, McCoy confronted his own brother. Bronson, you're insane, he snapped. Killing our own for gold? Bronson insisted. I'm doing this for you. I'd never abandon you. McCoy shot him in anger. The act shattered Bronson, who knocked McCoy unconscious. He could have fled with the gold alone, but he didn't. He carried his unconscious brother and dragged the cross onward. Bound by a vow to never leave him, by some miracle, they found an oasis. Bronson laid McCoy in a water trough and guarded him as he slept. But when he woke, McCoy was gone. Yes, McCoy had fled. Perhaps it was his idea of freedom. 15 years passed. Bronson was now wealthy and powerful, while his brother had become a small-town police officer. On a mission, McCoy stumbled upon a large box of money, unaware it belonged to Bronson. When Bronson learned his money had been taken by McCoy, he sent 3 trusted men to the town. Their orders: retrieve the cash and leave no survivors. McCoy, oblivious, was ambushed on his way back. The group took cover behind a carriage. Bill, seizing the chaos, broke free of his ropes and fled, leaving the others, a wounded officer, out of bullets, bleed profusely. An Indian snuck up, covering his mouth until he stopped breathing. McCoy raised his gun, only to find a barrel pressed to his head. The two stared, shocked. Blaine never imagined the man before him was his boss's brother. Old acquaintances. Meeting like this, they talked calmly. Blaine demanded the location of the $200,000 in cash. The boss says bring it back and no witnesses, he added. McCoy was stunned. The money belonged to Bronson. He agreed to return it, but only if Blaine came alone. I'm a cop, he said. Can't have folks seeing me with bandits. Blaine left his men waiting and followed McCoy to the hiding spot. They chatted along the way. Blaine urged him to rejoin Bronson, now a governor, who'd searched for him all these years. McCoy refused. He hurt me. He's a madman. At a rest stop, he made an offer, split the money, live separate lives. It's enough to set you up forever. Blaine declined. I have a good life. Bronson gave it to me. I won't betray him. McCoy relented, asking Blaine to hide his whereabouts from Bronson. Pretend we never met. Blaine shook his head. Too late. My men wired Bronson. He knows. Despair washed over McCoy. He grabbed Blaine, shoving his head into a water trough until he stopped moving. McCoy planned to grab the money and flee, but when he reached the hiding spot, he froze. A recent downpour had washed all the cash away. Meanwhile, Bronson gathered his men and rode for the town. Bill, who'd escaped earlier, returned to the town. Without McCoy, it was chaos. Looters had invaded, terrorizing women. In walked Bill, the bounty hunter. He pulled a bullet from his pocket and stood it on a table. He wanted to play a game with the bandits. True experts spoke little but acted fiercely. With McCoy gone, lawless thugs ran rampant, preying on the innocent. The town's boss begged Bill to stay and protect them, but he refused. He had a mission: find McCoy, learn Bronson's location, and avenge his mother. Bronson's men waited, growing anxious. Their comrade hadn't returned with the money. Suspicions turned to the merchant, whom they accused of colluding with McCoy to steal the cash. They shot him dead. Bill found McCoy in a rundown shack. McCoy was destitute, his escape plan ruined by the rain, and Bronson's men still hunting him. They put aside past grudges, filling glasses and talking calmly. They shared a common enemy. McCoy needed to evade Bronson's men. Bill needed to find Bronson. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, Bill said. He'd help take down Bronson's men on one condition: McCoy would lead him to Bronson afterward. They struck a deal, resolving to fight together. McCoy tracked down two of Bronson's men, confessing, the money's gone, washed away. I killed Blaine. Do what you want. Enraged, the men threatened to shoot him, but McCoy said, let me introduce a friend. Bill stepped forward, dropping his black bag. He flipped back his cloak, ready to draw his gun. It was kill or be killed. Unexpectedly, one of the men spoke, stunning Bill. I'll ask one thing carefully. Bronson ordered us to get the money, but he never said we couldn't kill his brother. Bill reeled. McCoy was the brother of Bronson, his mother's killer? But there was no time to process it. Both sides readied for battle. Only the fastest draw would survive. When the gunfire stopped, Bill and McCoy were the only ones left. Bill demanded McCoy keep his promise, lead him to Bronson, but McCoy backed out, only giving Bronson's location. I'm staying. I never want to see him again. Penniless and desperate, he begged Bill for the black bag, hoping to trade the heads inside for a reward. All we're after is money, McCoy said. Bill froze. Those were the same words his mother's killer had spoken. McCoy snapped, confessing, I was there. I helped rob her. I helped kill her. He lunged, wanting the bag, but Bill wouldn't let his mother's accomplice live. In the blink of an eye, guns fired. Bill collapsed, eyes closing. McCoy, shot through the heart, lay dead. Sometime later, a farmer and his child passed by. Finding Bill still breathing, they carried him home. Minutes after they left, Bronson arrived with his man. His brother lay cold on the ground. Bronson held McCoy's body all night, staring at the black leather bag beside him. He would find its owner and make them pay in blood. I'm a movie enthusiast. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.